Welcome to First Presbyterian Church. Whether you are tuning in for the first time or this has become part of your weekly routine, we're so glad that you have chosen to make this service part of your life of worship. I would like to remind you that beginning this coming week, we'll be receiving up to 10 people at a time to attend these recording sessions. This week that will happen on Thursday, July 2nd at 2:00 p.m. So if that's something that interests you, please give me a call sometime in the next few days. Now with our hearts joined together, let us turn to God in prayer. Thank you, God, for your words that open the eyes of the blind, for your love that can soften a heart of stone. Thank you for your everlasting mercies for the world and for each of us. In these days of challenge, draw us closer in. Help us to hear your voice, to rely on your grace, and to follow in your ways. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. As we prepare to receive God's word, let us join our hearts in prayer. Lord, open our hearts and minds by the power of your Holy Spirit, that as the scriptures are read and your word is proclaimed, we may hear with joy what you say to us today. Amen. The scripture reading is from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 40 through 42. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A few years ago, I was leading a women's retreat for a church in South Carolina, and we were having a great time. It It was a 2-night weekend away at a retreat center on the beach. So we were having Bible studies and worship and great conversations and, of course, good food. And as the weekend came to a close, it occurred to me that here I was in South Carolina, and it was the weekend before the Clemson-Carolina football game, and nobody had said a word about football the entire time. Now, I grew up in South Carolina, and like a lot of places, college football is its own religion there, and you have to pick a side, Carolina or Clemson. Doesn't matter where you're from, where or whether you or your family went to school, you've got to pick a side. I also knew that there are some top-notch Clemson and Carolina jokes, and I had not heard one Clemson joke or one Carolina joke all weekend. I was starting to think I was in the wrong place. So right before one of our Bible studies, I said something about it. Hey, isn't the Clemson-Carolina game coming up next weekend? I haven't heard anybody talking about it. And the room got deadly quiet. People were just kind of looking around at each other, nobody saying anything. And eventually one person spoke up. She said, well, it's just that people have really strong feelings about it. We're trying to be a loving community and respectful of each other, so it's just better if we don't talk about it. So on the one hand, I had huge respect for this group of women who had agreed to put aside their differences and their team loyalties and focus on Christ for the weekend together. And it was wonderful how they wanted to make sure that everybody felt included and they weren't distracting from their focus, and that it was a true retreat for every participant, and they weren't going to get bogged down or riled up by talking about football. And on the other hand, it just goes to show how seriously we take our allegiances, so much that even talking about it could ruin the weekend. Whether it's your favorite sports team, or a newscaster, or a politician, we all kind of prefer to follow along and listen to the people who already agree with us. Which is why Jesus' kind of benign-sounding words about welcome are actually so challenging. Because this is not about welcoming a visitor to your church who is new to the area. It's not about having a friend over for dinner. It's not about offering a bottle of water to your mail carrier on a hot day, although I hope we will do all of those things. This is about welcoming in a prophet, or a righteous person, or a disciple who is bringing a message that might ask us to question or relearn everything we think we know, everything we value most. And if we have a hard time entertaining a UVA fan, or a Republican, or a Democrat, and if our social media feeds and our reading lists and our radio stations are full of voices that are comfortable for us, that reinforce what we already believe, about opening the door to one of the 12. Imagine that you are living in the first century. The Roman Empire is in charge. You might be either a Jew or a Gentile. You're pretty much in the same boat either way. Near the end of the first century, when the Gospel of Matthew was written down, about 2 or 3% of the population, headed by the emperor, controls all political power. So a very small number of wealthy elites are in charge. And of course, they make decisions that are to their own advantage. This ruling class, the emperor and his appointed leaders, are perfectly happy to use violence and intimidation against their own citizens to keep them in line. And the Roman Empire has a world-class army ready to enforce the will of the emperor. Emperors claim that they are divinely chosen, that the gods have put them in this leadership position, and they expect that everyone will call them Lord. So this is normal life for you in the first century, and maybe it's not perfect, but at least you know how to navigate it, and maybe some of you have even been successful. Somebody has to be in charge, someone has to maintain an orderly society, and if you just kind of fall in line and play the game, then probably most of you don't have to worry about that army or local governors or getting into trouble. And then Jesus comes along, he and his messengers, and start shaking things up. They are crossing in and out of previously well-defined social and political boundaries, touching lepers, casting out demons, befriending everyone from prostitutes to tax collectors, claiming that they are the ones actually sent by God, and most importantly, claiming that they report directly to God. They are leaving behind jobs and families and possessions and everything that has value, and following a vagrant healer who has questionable credentials. And pretty much everyone who's anyone, religious and secular leaders alike, think that his ideals are a danger to society. Now they're inviting you to come along. So would you do it? Would you welcome somebody like this? Sit down for a cold drink of water with someone who is asking you to trade in everything you think you know, everything you have relied on for survival and security and advancement, and follow Jesus instead? Would you welcome a messenger who wants you to change your assumptions and habits and loyalties? Probably put you in a weird place with your friends and give you, at best, a bad reputation? I don't know. So Jesus sends out the 12, and he praises in advance the ones who will welcome his disciples, the ones who will listen and receive God's message, because that is really hard to do. And the message hasn't really gotten any easier over the years. Mark Twain once famously said, "It's not the parts of the Bible I don't understand that bother me. It's the parts that I do understand The Gospels themselves have plenty words of challenge. Read it again about the sick, unwelcome, poor, devastated, cast out people whom Jesus says will be the first in line to meet God. Read about Jesus' instructions to visit the sick and imprisoned, to feed the hungry and clothe the naked. And don't skip over his grave caution for anyone who refuses to do so. Read his probably least favorite piece of advice, that once you settle everything and give your money to the poor, then you'll be able to follow him. And before you try to explain it or rationalize it or theologize it away, let it sink in. Don't be afraid of the voices that challenge, whether it's from Scripture, your neighbors, from historians, or theologians, or even protesters. Listening will only help you grow in your faith and in your ability to share God's love. I know it's hard in these days of distance to have actual, real, in-person conversations. But on the flip side, we have the world at our fingertips right now. So watch the documentary that you've been putting off. Read a book that challenges you. Diversify your news sources or your podcasts. I'll commit myself to doing the same, and as we go, maybe we can swap suggestions with each other. Let's use this strange stay-home season to lift up and listen to the voices and the stories that have been long silenced. Welcome them in. Sit them down with a cold drink of water. Let's use this time to re-examine our hearts, to build new relationships, to reconsider what really matters. Let's trade in our old ways so that we can find new life in Christ. Thanks be to God.
Amen.
Lord, I want to be
Friends, wherever you are, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord be kind and gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with favor and give you